Edward Warren, born on September 7, 1926, and Lorraine Rita Warren, born on January 31, 1927, were American paranormal investigators and authors associated with prominent cases of alleged hauntings. Edward was a self-taught and self-professed demonologist, author, and lecturer. Lorraine professed to be clairvoyant and a light trance medium who worked closely with her husband. In 1952, the Warrens founded the New England Society for Psychic Research. They authored many books about the paranormal and about their private investigations into various reports of paranormal activity. They claimed to have investigated well over 10,000 cases during their career. The Warrens were among the first investigators in the Amityville haunting. According to the Warrens, they used a variety of individuals, including medical doctors, researchers, police officers, nurses, college students, and members of the clergy in its investigations. Stories of ghost hauntings popularized by the Warrens have been adapted as, or have indirectly inspired dozens of films, television series, and documentaries, including several films in the Amityville horror series and the films in the Conjuring universe. Skeptics Perry DeAngelis and Stephen Novella investigated the Warrens' evidence and described it as blarney. Skeptical investigators Joe Nickel and Benjamin Radford concluded that the better-known hauntings, Amityville and the Snedeker family haunting, did not happen and had been invented. So let's take a look into some of the Warrens' claims. For decades, Ed and Lorraine Warren were regarded as the world's most famous paranormal investigators. Their cases inspired blockbuster films like The Conjuring and the Amityville Horror. But what if the stories they told weren't as real as they claimed? Today, we uncover the lies and exaggerations behind some of their most famous cases. In 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr.B. murdered his entire family in their Amityville home. 1 year later, the Lutz family moved in and soon claimed they were terrorized by paranormal forces. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren. They investigated and declared the house was plagued by demons. But what was the truth? The family moved out after 28 days, reportedly leaving their possessions behind, including clothes in their closets and food in the fridge. 2 months later, a local TV crew did a segment on the house, bringing in so-called ghost hunters and paranormal experts to evaluate the couple's claims. The Lutzes later collaborated with author Jay Anson for his best-selling book. The family has said they never signed a contract with Anson, and that the tome and successful film spin-off netted them $300,000. Many people expressed doubts about their horror story, which fell under even more scrutiny after. DeFeo's defense attorney, William Weber, admitted he and the couple came up with the tale over several bottles of wine. "We took real-life incidents and transposed them," Weber reportedly said on the TV program A Current Affair in May 1988. In other words, it was a hoax. George's stepson, Christopher Quaratino, who was 7 when he lived in the house, came forward in 2005 to say that events in the Amityville horror books and movies had been stretched to the point of fiction. Quaratino also said that George was obsessed with the occult and had exaggerated some paranormal incidents he believes did occur when he was a child. "He's a professional showman, in my opinion," Quaratino said. "I just feel as though we're being exploited. The notorious house has passed through the hands of several owners since the Lutzes lived there, and no one else has reported any spooky happenings." The Perron family's haunting was one of the Warrens' most well-known cases, inspiring The Conjuring. The Warrens claimed the spirit of a witch named Bathsheba Sherman tormented the family. But did the facts support this claim? Historical records show no evidence that Bathsheba was a witch or that she sacrificed children. Local historians argue that the Warrens fabricated much of the story to sensationalize the case. The Perron family did experience strange events, but there was no proof of demonic activity. The Conjuring is loosely based on a real story. In real life, Roger and Carolyn Perron moved into the Rhode Island farmhouse in 1971 with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April, while the movie portrays the events happening. Over a very short period, the Perrons actually lived in the house until 1980. The family, mostly Carolyn and her daughters, saw full-body apparitions, heard noises, and smelled rotten odors, culminating in a terrifying seance performed with the help of Warrens. The Conjuring transformed the Warrens into folk heroes and turned the Rhode Island farmhouse where the events supposedly took place into a tourist hotspot. In 2022, the home was sold for a whopping $1.5 million. Thanks to the film's fame, even though The Conjuring is an excellent film for what it is, it's about 95% fiction and about 5% hard truth. The Perron's daughter, Andrea Perron, told Canada's Global News in 2021. In the late 1970s, a haunting in Enfield, England, captured worldwide attention. The Warrens arrived to investigate, claiming it was a case of real poltergeist activity. But local paranormal researchers had a different story. In August 1977, single mother Peggy Hodgson and her 4 children reported strange occurrences in their home. These included unexplained noises, furniture moving on its own, and objects being thrown across rooms. The family claimed to witness levitation of objects and people, particularly involving 11-year-old Janet Hodgson. The case attracted significant media attention and drew in paranormal investigators, including Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair from the Society for Psychical Research. Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, 2 British researchers, spent more time on the case and found many inconsistencies. Some of the supposed levitations of the young girl, Janet Hodgson, were clearly her jumping off the bed. Even more damning, audio recordings captured Janet admitting to faking paranormal events. The Warrens, however, continued to push their demonic narrative. A Raggedy Ann doll locked in a glass case, one of the Warrens' most infamous relics. According to them, Annabelle was possessed by a sinister entity. But was it truly supernatural? The real Annabelle story involved 2 young women who played with a doll and claimed it moved on its own. A priest later dismissed the case as pure imagination. As the story goes, the Annabelle doll had been a gift to a young nurse named Donna from her mother for her 28th birthday. Donna, apparently thrilled with the gift, brought it back to her apartment that she shared with another young nurse named Angie. At first, the doll was an adorable accessory, sitting on a sofa in the living room and greeting visitors with her colorful visage. But before long, the 2 women began to notice that Annabelle seemed to move about the room of her own accord. Donna and Angie then started finding notes left throughout the apartment reading, "Help me," according to the women. The notes were written on parchment paper, which they did not even keep in their home. When a medium held a scene sesh, told the women that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a deceased 7-year-old named Annabelle Higgins, whose body had been found years earlier on the site where their apartment building had been built. Eventually, in an attempt to rid their home of the Annabelle doll's spirit, Donna and Angie called on an Episcopal priest known as Father Hegan. Hegan contacted his superior, Father Cook, who alerted Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens subsequently ordered an exorcism of the apartment to be performed by Father Cook. Then they took Annabelle out of the apartment and to her final resting place in their occult museum in the hopes that her demonic reign would finally end since being locked up. Annabelle, the doll, hasn't moved again, though it is alleged that her spirit has found ways to reach out to the earthly plane. No hard evidence ever supported the Warrens' claim that the doll was possessed. Yet, it became a lucrative attraction for their occult museum. Over the years, the Warrens continued to recount these tales as proof of Annabelle the doll's horrific powers. Though none of these stories could be corroborated, the names of the young priest and the motorcyclists were never divulged. Neither Donna nor Angie, the two nurses who were Annabelle's first victims, ever came forward with their story. Neither Father Cook nor Father Hegan appeared to have mentioned their exorcisms of her ever again. It would appear that all we have is the Warrens' word that any of this even took place. The 2009 psychological horror film, The Haunting in Connecticut, tells the story of the Snedeker family, who in 1986 rented an old house in Southington, Connecticut. Ellen and Carmen Snedeker moved in with their daughter and 3 young sons. While exploring their new home, Carmen found strange items in the basement, tools used by morticians. The family soon discovered to their horror that their home had once been a funeral parlor, and the eldest son began seeing ghosts and terrifying visions. The experiences spread to other family members and got worse. Both parents said they were raped and sodomized by demons. One day, as Carmen mopped the kitchen floor, the water suddenly turned blood red and smelled of decaying flesh. And so on, finally. The family contacted a pair of self-styled demonologists and ghost hunters, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who arrived and proclaimed the Snedeker house to be infested with demons. The Snedekers have told their story many times, including on national talk shows and in a Discovery Channel TV show. The film's poster states in capital letters at the top that the movie is based on true events, yet others aren't so sure. Investigator Joe Nickel reports in the May or June issue of Skeptical Inquirer magazine that the Snedekers' landlady found the whole story ridiculous. She noted that nobody before or since had experienced anything unusual in the house, and that the Snedeker family stayed in the house for more than 2 years before finally deciding to leave, apparently being assaulted and raped by Satan's minions. For months at a time wasn't a good enough reason to break the lease. The Snedekers' story first came to light in horror novelist Ray Garton's 1992 book, In a Dark Place, The Story of a True Haunting. In an interview in Horrorbound magazine, Garton discussed how the true story behind The Haunting in Connecticut came about. Garton was hired by Ed and Lorraine Warren to work with the Snedekers and write the true story of their house from hell. He interviewed all the family members about their experiences and soon realized that there was a problem. I found that the accounts of the individual Snedekers didn't quite mesh. They couldn't keep their stories straight. I went to Ed with this problem. "Oh, they're crazy," he said. "You've got some of the story, just use what works and make the rest up. Just make it up and make it scary." Garton, who had accepted the job expecting to have a real, true story to base the book on, did as he was told. "I used what I could, made up the rest, and tried to make it as scary as I could." Though the Snedekers stand by their story, it seems there is little or no proof that anything supernatural occurred at the house. Whether or not the Snedekers actually believed their story, they stood to make money from the book deal. They were aware that the Lutz family of Amityville, New York, profited handsomely from selling the rights to their true story of a haunted house. The Amityville horror has long since been revealed as a fiction by investigator Rick Osuna and others. Interestingly, the Warrens were also involved in the Amityville case. While Ed and Lorraine Warren were undoubtedly influential in the paranormal world, the truth behind their investigations remains murky. Were they genuine investigators or skilled storytellers profiting from fear? The evidence suggests that Many of their most famous cases were exaggerated, if not outright fabricated. But one thing is certain: their legacy endures, even if the ghosts do not.